Hi guys. So I went to the neurologist Friday, and kind of got hit with a double whammy. Um, I have been talking about the essential tremor that runs in my family, and about my hand shaking and having trouble doing things because um anyway, I'm sorry I'm saying so much, and I'm saying so much because I'm very self-conscious because I can see myself right now, and I'm watching and analyzing my every muscle movement in my face, and I'll tell you why. So yes, I went to the neurologist, a movement disorder neurologist, who also has she also has a I don't she has a psychiatric degree as well. So I do have the essential tremor, and I also have a, as she said, they call it something different kind of now. Medication induced movement disorder. So we are talking about along the lines of tardive dyskinesia from antipsychotics. And long-term antipsychotics usually. I had not paid a lot of attention to information about this because I think in my mind I brushed it off because I associated, because I went to nursing school in the early 90s. I was a nurse throughout the 90s and 2000s. I can remember when we would do psychiatric rotations, there were people that had tardive dyskinesia there, and it was primarily schizophrenics because back then they were the only ones getting the antipsychotics, and so there was the stigma of them being schizophrenic and the stigma of having these weird body movements and facial movements. So anyway, and also the term tardive dyskinesia, it just puts people in a certain mindset, like, and I can remember feeling it myself, a dislike for, the schizophrenics were schizophrenics, and I was doing my job, and I was in nursing school and I was there to learn. But when you had one that had the tardive dyskinesia, you were just like, oh my God, don't get too close to me. And you please understand that I was very young then, like 19, 20, and was still very immature. So not very, but basic 19, 20-year-old. Anyway, because in somewhere in between nursing school and when I, now, there was a time when they realized these new atypical, ooh, how exciting, they were exciting, atypical antipsychotics helped with bipolar disorder. And so, I landed on Seroquel, and I have been on it at least 10 years. And I take 800 milligrams a day at bedtime, extended release. But I thought, oh, I'm not schizophrenic, and even though there's no logic in that, and it's an atypical, there's less chance of you getting TD. So I just never thought of it. And it apparently what they described has happened, but I'm going to talk more about tardive dyskinesia, but I just want to explain where I'm coming from here. That I was going along with 2 symptoms of tardive dyskinesia for a long time, but it hadn't changed any. And I didn't know that's what it was. I just assumed it was the medication, but I thought it was like lithium. My right arm jerk out, and I'd drop whatever I was holding, or I'd accidentally click on something I didn't mean to click on the computer. Things like that. And when I would drink from a cup, my jaw would bounce up and down. So, but as soon as the essential tremor problem showed up in my hands, I had all these other things that were a little different happen. So so it just kind of felt like I was made of jello with twitches. Just mostly when I'm like at rest. I don't know, it's just all weird. And they described it as, the doctor described it to me like this: if you have a glass of water and you put a cup of water in it and you bump that glass, I just bumped the laptop, it's not going to spill out because the sides are too high. But if you put 2 cups of water in the glass and you bump the glass, it'll spill because there's, it's that high to the edge. So basically you have 2 problems that are exacerbating each other. So this video really was to first talk about the movement disorder, TD, tardive dyskinesia. So, and I'm saying this to you because even though atypical antipsychotics have a less chance of it, it can still happen in long-term use. And so you just need to be paying attention to your body for changes, because I didn't. And you can't rely on your doctor, your psychiatrist alone to see it and say something about it. So, and it does need to be talked about. So, like I said, it's mostly medications for psychiatric disorders, and some GI disorders. Some of the medications for that. And yes, I am looking at notes. I'm sorry, because I had to do research, because I am just learning too. And it is often seen as involuntary muscle movements, lips, tongue, jaw, and teeth, rubbing teeth, which you have heard me complain about, and it's mystery solved. Jerks and jerk motions, and move like rolling type motions. And the limbs, like I said, the like jerking or twisting. It can also do legs and trunk, and it can be so severe that it falls into a whole different category. I'm just going to talk about the basics. I believe I was classified as mild, maybe in some spots moderate, but I'm going to talk about that too. How they assess you for it. So, I read that 1 in 4 people on antipsychotics will get it. You can't tell who or how bad or how long it takes to, it can be 3 months to years that you're on it before you see it. And the people they didn't mention whether that was atypical antipsychotics or all of them, or just the old school ones, because I know the old school ones have a really bad reputation for tardive dyskinesia. You're higher risk if you're female, smoker, diabetes, history of ECT, and a long-time user of antipsychotics. It's often misdiagnosed, for example, as Tourette's. I have been reading and looking up, and there is a plethora of movement disorders out there in this world, and a lot of them, they have subcategories, and it's just craziness. It looks like you really can't be, you have to be very, very taking part in your treatment. But when it comes to the movement disorders, you really need to make sure you have a really good, have good doctors. You feel like they know what they're talking about, and to help guide you, because I would recommend that you see a specialist for this, Um, I see a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and I am considering finding out if I can be switched to a psychiatrist, um, or if I don't know, I have to call because they need to know about this. Um, and I'll get into a little bit about treatment and what happens with your medication. um, an interesting thing is a lot of our medications we take deal with the neurotransmitter dopamine in our brains. When it's just insane, so weird, I think. Biology. People with Parkinson's, they don't get enough dopamine to their where it needs to go for them to have a nice smooth motion. So they have trouble moving. People with tardive dyskinesia, which it is related to dopamine, which is something that your medication is purposely doing. You have the problem of not being able to stop moving. So that's the very interesting world of neurotransmitters. Schizophrenia is dopamine related in the brain. People who are on antipsychotics, when they go to their doctor, psychiatric or movement specialist, they should be checking you like every 3 months. There is something called the AIMS test, AIMS test, and it's just a series of things where they say stick your tongue out, walk back and forth, stretch out your arms, things like that. It's not meant to diagnose, it's only meant to detect symptoms and the degree of symptoms. Nobody was doing that to me at my psychiatrist's office. But, and now we're doing virtual, so, but if it were in person, somebody should be doing the AIMS test on you every 3 months or so. Excuse me. It is extremely cold here. The wind chill is -24. And so every heater in the house is on. And my entire body is dry. And the AIMS test being done every time you see your doctor, if you're taking antipsychotics, is really important because then they can detect the symptoms earlier than later. If the symptoms are detected, what are the options? What happens then? There are a huge number of medications, depending on where you look, on which ones work and which ones don't, to help fix the movement disorder while you're continue to be on your antipsychotic meds. In one place I looked at just had this whole long list of drugs that could be tried, and then I looked somewhere else, and there was like 3 that were used, and then they listed a whole bunch that they specifically said these do not help. There are some hold on. Okay. There are some vitamins, though, that I found, and I'm going to be all over this. Vitamin C, I saw somewhere. B6. Certain severe, like facial, not severe, I'm sorry, if it's mild, facial things, they can use Botox. I wouldn't go there. Mild, ginkgo, vitamin E, ginkgo biloba, and vitamin C and vitamin E, B6. So I'm gonna be buying me some vitamins. Anyway, I don't see myself with my head jerking and back and forth and my jaw going out of control. I can feel some things happening that you probably can't see. I do feel my tongue can't sit still in my mouth. Sometimes I do kind of do a thing like that. And obviously we know I'm doing something with my jaw because my teeth are worn down. So, I think that's all I had except for the big, really main part that I wanted to get to. Oh, okay, no. I gotta tell you about masking. Well, why don't you just take away the drug that's causing the symptoms? In medicine, there is something called masking. And that is when you are on a treatment and you see symptoms of a side effect, and the medication that is causing the side effect is also hiding the severity of the symptoms. And a lot of times people are pulled off their meds, the antipsychotic, the offending drug, and the movement disorder gets worse. So it's not as easy as that. If you have it on and you're on an old school antipsychotic, they'll switch you to an atypical and it'll be great for you, but I'm already on an atypical. And we know that Seroquel has done great things for me. But I also know that there are some newer drugs that I've not tried for different problems related to bipolar disorder. But I'm just terrified of taking away major meds, because I had a hellish time before Seroquel and Lithobid. I just don't ever want to be that sick again. And so it's a little terrifying. because it can be permanent, and it can or take a really, really long time to go away. So yeah, I need to be speaking to my psychiatrist to let them know I have this. And I haven't been in an in-person visit, because of COVID, in a really long time. And I have been noticing the exacerbation of symptoms in movement, both the essential tremor, and what I now know is this started about June-ish last year. Summer, I would just say summer of last year. So they haven't seen me. So maybe they would see me and be like, oh my God, how long have you had this? I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because I'll tell you a little bit about the tremor. The tremor is inherited. I have my dad, my 2 aunts, and a sister that have it. I didn't know that I had the voice. My voice vibrates, and I didn't know it ever changed. It was so funny because when I went in to talk to the doctor, I said, well, my dad and his 2 sisters have the voice tremor. And she's like, well, you do too. I'm like, no, I don't. She's like, yeah, you didn't know that? She goes, that's the first thing I noticed when I came in. I was like, oh. And so I came home, and I'm going to put a link in my description to 2009 video. My voice is completely different. I'm like, well, no wonder people are having a hard time hearing me. When I talk to my dad on the phone, it's just awful. I'm like, what? And my mom's been doing the same thing to me lately, and now I know why. It is like a vibration and a squeak. Sometimes silence. So no wonder people can't hear me. The vocal cords, it's a brain thing. And I don't know, it makes the vocal cords and my hands tremor. So, and essential tremor is progressive. They don't know how worse it's going to get or how fast it's going to get there. So, it wasn't very good news. And I was already my primary doctor had diagnosed the essential tremor and sent me to the movement disorder neurologist. And I was already self-conscious about my hands shaking in front of people. I was afraid that they were going to think one of 2 things: that I was nervous and incompetent and didn't know what I was doing, and so my hands were shaking because I was nervous and not confident. And I have been in situations where I'm handing people, they're paying me to train a dog, and I'm handing them paper and my hands are shaking. And I'm like, or they're going to think, and see, some of this, like my face moving, doing anything, I'm over analyzing it. Is that a movement, or is that me? I was just smearing my lip balm on my lips. But I'm paranoid now. But anyway, or they'll think that I'm coming off of some drug or need a drink or something. So it's already, and so now I'm like, I feel partly, like, well, now all those people that told me they couldn't hear me, I'm like, well, there's a reason now. I can say that there was a reason. So that actually makes me feel better, because people associate, I mean, I've always been quiet. My voice has always been quiet. But this is different. And I think people take that as a sign of not very confident. And I think they hear my voice vibrating, like a quivering, like I'm upset or something, or anxious. And I'm not. So I'm already self-conscious about those things. And then I get told that I have the medication movement disorder, and I don't want to say tardive dyskinesia because I still feel icky about it. I'm being real here. I'm being honest. And if anybody has it, I saw one video of a woman. It's really hard to find videos of people who have, tardive dyskinesia. I mean, because this is why it's there's first, see, there is still a huge stigma of psychiatric disorders, and for a long time, if you could keep your behavior a little bit in check, people might not know. You could go to the store and maybe even work, and nobody knows that you have this problem, that you take medication for this problem. And now everyone can see. It's like everyone, like they think they can see. It's now visible. And I'm also worried that if it gets worse, people are going to think I'm tweaking. I'm not going to leave the house. Am I? I'm not. I would wear a shirt that said I'm not tweaking if I'm going to have extremities rolling around. Yeah, it's like being put inside out, so everyone can see your nerves and blood vessels and muscles, and you're just exposed. And there's so much stigma, and then there's stigma within the stigma. You're in the psychiatric disorder world, you're further stigmatized because you have the tardive dyskinesia. So it's kind of sucky. I'm I'm most worried about my hands and my eyes. If I want to be able to read, my voice is getting tired. And I mean, if you have, I just realize if you do have a break in your illness and the police are called and they see you arms rolling and if you have it really bad, what do you think they're gonna think? Even though I'm wearing a medical ID, what are they gonna think? So anyway, obviously I'm most concerned about my eyes. My voice, I don't mind learning. I don't know. I don't care about my voice. I'll use an electronic thing. But my hands, is it gonna keep me from doing what I love, which is making my wands and brooms? I haven't done it in a couple weeks because I've just been overwhelmed and trying to keep things light, an easy load, and I've been being lazy. In fact, I've been watching car crash compilations. I have no idea how it happened, but now I can't stop. So yeah, I'm worried about if it keeps getting worse. Am I gonna do these videos? Would it be too hard? So what's happening with me for the treatment? I have 2 different disorders going on. Obviously, it's not severe because I'm sitting relatively still, and I started primidone, which is an anti-epileptic barbiturate. Yes, the first night that I took it, I felt a little fuzzy and lightheaded and spacey. Spacey's the word. But the second night, it was like every other night. And I'm slowly going up on it. And we're hoping it will help with the Tardive Dyskinesia as well. That's the hope, but from what I've read, it's probably not gonna work. And just hoping that the TD doesn't get really bad, like maybe it'll plateau or something. I don't know, but people are very have low self-esteem with that movement disorder and are isolated because socially they don't want to go out. I don't want to. I have to make the decision if I want to become the person that gives up and isolates and the person who says, well, screw you if you don't care to understand me or know me, so and just do the things I enjoy doing. I need to definitely play my games more, because I don't know how long I'll be able to use the controls. They're kind of hard, but it might be better because I haven't tried yet. Because since I took the Primidone for the essential tremor, I can type faster, and I didn't make as many mistakes, and my use of the mouse is smoother. They don't know how it works, they just know that it does. So hopefully I'll just have to deal with the tardive dyskinesia. I mean, that would be okay if I had just one problem. I don't want both piled on top of me. That's how it feels right now, but I have to make the decision on what person I'm gonna be. So that's that. After this video, and by the way, I'm gonna put some links in the description so you can see what the AIMS test is like, what they do. The neurologist did do that on me when I was there, and a pretty good little short part one, part two, about a woman who has bipolar, and she had you can see that she has some things going on, but it's not severe. Like I said, it's hard to find video, I imagine, of someone who has it severe. And I don't want people to panic. I am not a doctor. I am not a mental health professional. I'm talking about my own experience. So don't go off your meds without talking to your doctor first. So I'll put them in the description.